Welcome back to Community Builders, the community building podcast, where we believe that building community and building personal brand is the best business for your soul. Today's guest left university, £50,000 in debt, took a sales job on the beaches of Spain. So some similarities there with me as well. He had no backup plan. He built a podcast, a community, and a coaching business around helping people design a life on their own terms. Callum,
That's
how's it going?
amazing. I love the opener and community builders as well. It's such a strong name, and obviously you've built an incredible community, yourself over in Spain, and obviously I know you're expanding this out online now, and I really appreciate the intro. But yeah, no, I'm doing amazing. I love podcasting. Like, this is like my favorite. I asked myself a question on the flight back from Mexico recently. I'd be like, if I could only do one thing, what would it be? And my answer was podcasting.
Mm,
So I feel grateful that we've made this happen.
awesome. Why do you love it so much for? What's it about podcasting that you love?
Good question. I think the thing I love about podcasting, I love connecting.
Yeah.
I love networking, and I think podcasting is one of the most rawest type of content there is. There's no scripts. Yes, I'm sure you've probably had a bit of like thoughts of some questions and stuff, but they're very just like, they just flow. There's like, they just flow. It's very natural. And I just really enjoy the type of deep conversations that can come from podcasting. And also, I'm a podcast host as well. And I think it's nice to be the podcast host and ask the questions, because it's kind of like free mentorship, which is
Yeah.
really cool. But on the flip side, it's also really fun going on a podcast and getting to share your story and your perspective, because obviously, ultimately, like, my intention always is to bring value and to help whoever's listening to this today. Like, if you're listening to this podcast today, there's a reason why you're tuning in. And my mission and my goal, and also with yourself, Tom, as a collaborative, is to make sure that we can make an impact, and whoever's listening today, we can really help them when it comes to. I assume if they're listening to community builders, they're curious of building communities, and curious of how that actually works. And my goal is to bring value today for that. So yeah, that's why I love podcasting. But I'm going to throw it back to you. Why do you love podcasting?
Well, this is only my fourth podcast ever, and and as a host, that is, I've done a lot of podcasts. I mean, they're quite a low pressure environment. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, if somebody
mm,
else is interviewing you, you know you've got to show up and answer the questions, and so I quite like that. I always
yeah,
ask people when they interview me not to give me the questions in advance, because I think I
same.
perform better just off the cuff, and that's kind of how the conversations that I like to have anyway.
Yeah,
Even I went on Spanish TV recently, and they were like,
no
"Oh,
way.
do you need the questions first?" I was like, "Nah, do not send me the
Nah,
questions, just because otherwise then I'll overthink it. I'll start preparing,
overthink it.
trying to think of the perfect way to say something. I'm just way better. Just even if I mess it up, even if I fuck it up in the moment, it's
Yeah,
okay. But at least it sounds natural. At least it's me kind of like just speaking how I usually would, rather than giving some kind of robotic answer. It's a much more fair,
it's
better reflection.
just it's just real,
Yeah, it's
raw,
real.
real, authentic. You're just speaking from the heart. Like, people make mistakes, people stutter, people,
Yeah,
that's just part of it. And I think the whole perfectionism is,
yeah,
I think, what holds a lot of people back from building communities,
yeah.
from creating content. And I think that's why I love podcasts, because it's just
The
raw, unfiltered.
the one thing I will say about podcasts, and this is funny because I'm literally just about to ask you your story, but the one thing that I don't like so much is I've told my story so many times at this point,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah. Yeah.
feel I've got it down to a T now, so I can tell it exactly. Like, moved to Spain for a girl, built giddies in mierda, like skated the length of Spain, and it links all together so perfectly. But I feel like when somebody goes back and does the origin story, depending on how much they want to get into that, it kind of it's a bit of a boring subject for me to talk about a little bit. Not in that my story is boring,
Yeah.
but it's like I would much rather zoom in on one particular point of the story, and then they're
Yeah.
just super in detail on, okay, the Spain skateboard, or like when I first started building giddies, just do an hour on that, rather than a lot of the time it's like this 30,000 view.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
the whole story, which I have told a million times.
I get you. I think it's quite good to weave it in, to weave in your story depending on the context of like the question and depending on like the relevance of it. Because I agree. I 100% agree on that. I think so, sometimes you ask someone the question about the story and they just drag it out too long.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue, I guess. So, do you want to give
Yeah,
us 30,000
pressure's on.
of your story? Because I teased it a little bit, but I mean, I think your story is particularly interesting because I'm all about people who take risks and have interesting stories to tell. And I think one of the biggest risks you can take is potentially moving to a new country without much of a backup plan,
Mm.
when you might have other responsibilities, for example, as well, that you've still got to pay the bills no matter what happens. I like those stories of it's either do or die, or it's either like it's a make or break, you know. And so your story for me, from what I know about it, does seem a little bit like that. So do you want to give me the kind of the 30,000 foot version?
Yeah. It's been a wild journey, and my goal and intention is to drop some lessons throughout. Um, but for me, growing up at school, I had zero confidence whatsoever. Like a lot of people that go to school, they don't really have a clue what they want to do in their life. So I was like, do I get an apprenticeship at a bank or do I go to university? I didn't
Yeah.
know about any other options. Traveling the world was something I never really even considered. And I was like, well, I want to go to uni because I don't want to go into the get a job. But as soon as I got to uni, I actually got an opportunity within 1 week to go on a TV show called Ibiza Weekender, which is like a TV show in the UK on ITV. It's essentially going on a lad's holiday, getting drunk and getting recorded for the weekend.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. So I got that opportunity to go on there. And that was while I was at Freshers Week at uni.
How?
What's that?
How did you get the opportunity?
I got the opportunity because I actually just applied. I applied for just a bit of fun,
Yeah,
and
nice.
I ended up going through. I had to like do psychology tests and stuff like this to get accepted onto it because they got
Yeah,
to be obviously cautious of who they like accept onto the show.
yeah.
And they liked my energy and my friends. And I got an email. I can vividly remember. I went to Plymouth Uni, and I was sat there. We were pre-drinking, and I got an email through from ITV. You've been accepted to come on to Ibiza Weekend. We're gonna fly you out on Monday. And I
Wow.
was at Plymouth, so I had to get the coach back to Bristol, like where I'm originally from, and then I got a flight out to Ibiza with my two friends. And when we were there, ITV, they actually asked me, they were like, would you ever be an events rep abroad? And my initial answer was no, that isn't for me. That life isn't for me. Whereas my two friends on the show were like, that I'd be all over that. Because I had
Yeah,
this like weird stigma that because I was going to university,
yeah, yeah,
like that wasn't me doing
yeah,
that. Like that I'm too intelligent for that because I'm at university, which is just
yeah.
ridiculous.
Mhm.
That's the mindset that I had. But then I got back to uni after being on IB for Weekender, and I vividly remember I studied business. So anyone listening to this podcast that studies business, you may be able to resonate with me. I was sat in a lecture listening to someone who's in his 70s teaching me business. He's never even ran a business. So he's just learned business at uni and now he's now teaching business from a textbook. And the whole lecture room was just disengaged. And after that, I was like, I'm getting in 50 grand worth of debt to be here and learn this. So I ended up getting an advert through to work abroad in Magaluf. And I ended up booking a one-way flight for that summer. And I flew out there. I had no idea what I was going to do. Never been there before, never been to Maga, but I just had this feeling to do it. And then when I got there, I ended up getting an opportunity to be an event promoter. So promoting boat parties, promoting bar events, promoting pool parties, all these different type of events. And essentially it was commission only. And this was the start of my entrepreneurship at 19 years old, was that took me down this different unique route that I've gone on over the years. And it all started because I put myself in an uncomfortable position, a bit like yourself, like moving out to Spain.
Uh-huh.
and same with me, like moving out there, no idea, didn't know anyone. And I just did it. And then it took me down the path of discovering number one, how much I loved being in the sun,
Yeah.
number one. And number two, that the skill of sales, the better you get at sales, the more money you can make. And that was a real massive turning point for me, going from someone that had no confidence at all within a year, then being on a TV show in Ibiza to now, out living in Mallorca as an events rep. So that was like the starting point of my journey. And then obviously fast forward, that's been what now, 9 years. I've gone on a crazy journey of transitioning from going from, being in person, having that freedom, but I wanted essentially be online so that I could live in Mexico, live in Bali, live in Thailand. And it really hasn't been an easy journey of building an online business. However, once you've tasted that freedom, I always say to my partner, I'm always like, there's just like no going back.
Yeah, so true.
So yeah, I won't go into the nitty gritty details of everything.
But
Um,
something that you
that's
said
how it
there,
all started.
yeah, there was something you said there that was interesting that I think people who are listening will find interesting as well. And it's that at the start you said that you had no confidence when you were younger, when you were in school and stuff, you had no confidence. And so there's a bit of
Yeah,
a jump in my mind, at least, between the guy who got no confidence and then the guy who applies for Ibiza Weekender. So
yeah.
was there a little transformation there that we didn't go over, or
The-
what was the point
the-
there? Because I think a lot of people struggle with confidence.
Confidence is I won't bloody hell, I won't go really deep, but I actually ended up going through my podcast partner for season one of Freedom Lifestyle.
Yeah.
He actually he took me through something called a breakthrough. This was after this, so I will come back to what you shared, but I just wanted to dive into how deep this can really get.
Mhm.
When it comes to confidence, it's the biggest fear and the biggest trauma that majority of people have is not feeling good enough. And then because people don't feel good enough, that's why they'll drink alcohol, or that's why they'll travel, or that's why they'll do this, that's why they'll do that, and it's from not feeling good enough. And I actually went through a process for 2 days. And my best friend, he specialized in deep trauma work. And he took me through a 2-day journey. And I ended up going back. This it's even crazy saying it out loud, but I went back to being in the womb. And my mum and nan, yeah, it's crazy even saying it. My mum and nan were arguing whether or not they should keep me or not. So my mum and nan were talking about an abortion whilst I was in the womb. And my mum had me at 16 and my dad had me at 18. So I entered the world with trauma of not feeling good enough. And it was wild. When I told my mum and nan, they were like, what happened on the experience? And I told them, and they were like, yeah, that happened multiple times.
Wow.
So this is how deep this can really get, because the first 7 years of our life, I'm a qualified coach. So I've done deep psychology work. The first 7 years of our life, our conscious mind hasn't actually fully developed yet. So essentially, you can't accept or reject anything. So if someone tells you you're such a naughty kid, you're not going to be able to do anything, or someone tells you you're ugly, or someone tells you you're annoying, or someone tells or you hear them talking about should we get rid of you, right?
Yeah.
These things are conscious mind because they haven't been fully formed yet. They can't accept or reject it. So if you're 2 years old and your mum tells you the sky is pink, as an example, you'd believe it because
Yeah.
you've got no context of what the sky's blue.
Yeah.
But when you're that age, you can't accept or reject anything. Whereas now, if someone told you the sky's pink, you'd be like, well, the sky is blue. So what happens is when it comes to confidence, a lot of the time, people don't actually realize the reason why they're not confident now with business, or confident now in relationships, or confident now to even go and travel is
Mhm.
because of the past. So the key is to go back into it, to go back into the past and understand the psychology and your past experiences and why it's causing you now to feel that way of not feeling confident. So that's how deep this can really get. But to answer your question, I think the main transformation for me, it sounds crazy, but I had a real big fear around getting my hair cut when I was at school. So, like the Justin Bieber haircut.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people went through that stage of having that style of haircut.
I did too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. So a lot of people, right? But mine just looked. It just didn't look good. It didn't look good. I actually got school. People called me a girl. People said that I looked like a girl. So that caused a lot of shit.
The trauma by laughing, but
That's I can laugh about it now, but at the time I didn't find it funny. Obviously,
yeah,
I was like at school in my teenage years.
yeah, of
But
course,
even though I didn't like my hair, I was so scared to get it cut
yeah,
because of that fear of going into school and the judgment of
mm,
everyone seeing that I've had a haircut and what are they going to think and all this type of stuff.
yeah,
So I just never got a haircut. So it was like years of just like I'd go to get my hair done and I'd just get it trimmed a little bit because I was so scared to go all out and just go short.
mhm.
And then I finally got the fucking balls. I don't know if we can swear on here, but
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
I finally got the balls to just get a hair, go short.
yeah,
And I then started getting quote unquote validation. I started getting loads of people like compliment me. After getting a haircut, within like 6 months, I ended up getting a girlfriend. I started feeling a lot more confident in myself. And then it just started from there, really. Like I guess that's more of an external thing rather than an internal deep work. But it
mm,
was just a change of, I guess, a change of identity. And that then led me on to just growing my confidence. And then I just thought I seen an opportunity to apply, and I had this gut intuition feeling. I think this is something to share on here actually. If you have an intuition or a feeling or a knowing to do something, like just do it. But I actually made the hardest decision last week of my life. Maybe just over a week ago now, like 10 days ago or something, when I got back from Mexico. I actually walked away from a six-figure business I was 50-50 with my old business partner. I had a business called Sales Growth Club, and it was essentially a sales agency is what it was. And obviously my background being in sales, like it made a lot of sense. I've got a lot of knowledge around sales. However, it wasn't exciting me anymore. Like it almost got to a point where it started to feel like more of a job. And for me, like freedom is like my North Star. And when I was flying back from Mexico, I really went deep. And you know how it is when you get a flight and you're on a plane, it really gives you the time to actually think.
when you're
There's
raw
no
dog,
distractions. What's that?
when you're raw dog in the flight, I think they say,
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right. There's no distractions. And I started asking myself the questions like, what do I want to be known for? What do I want to speak about on stage? If money wasn't involved, would I actually do it?
mhm,
And my answer was no. And my answer to what do I want to speak about on stage was freedom. Hence, my podcast is called Freedom Lifestyle, right? Hence why I've become a coach, so I can really help people go deep into their past and help them, eliminate limiting beliefs so they can be internally free, right?
mhm,
And I was like, oh wow, this isn't actually in alignment with my future. But it was felt like a bit of a roller coaster. But my message to anyone listening to this is if you have an intuition and an inner knowing, let's say you're in a relationship that you
yeah,
know you shouldn't be in, but you just can't leave, or you're at a job and you hate it, but you just can't leave, or you're running a business and you actually really don't like it. If you've
yeah,
got this intuition and inner knowing, that you're destined for something bigger or something more, like trust your intuition. Um, I hope that message lands to the right people, because I think listening in is something that we tend to not do enough.
yeah, and no, I think that's definitely super important, and I think it resonates with me for sure, and therefore I think it will resonate with a lot of people that end up seeing this. So my question is, more of a practical one as a follow up from that. If you've got this business that's doing six figures, you're fifty
Mhm.
fifty on would it not make more sense, or why didn't you, for example? Like, could you not have put some systems in place where you can step away, but you still have 50% ownership? Or do you feel like you had to make this big decision, this drastic decision to walk away completely?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And ultimately, yes, that systems and stuff you can put into place for sure. But where the stage of the business where we were at, and the fact that we were a sales agency, so it meant that we had we had a percentage of we had percentages of businesses rather than it being like the percentage. So in terms of being able to delegate and be able to get the right people involved, we just didn't have the margin there for us to be able to do that. And
Uh-huh.
in terms of the roles and responsibilities that I would that in order to get it to a point where we could then say delegate, for me personally, like the time and energy that I'd be putting into that, I wanted to be putting all my time and energy into my own brand, into my
Yeah.
own into what I want to be known for. So yeah, 1,000,000%. Like as you progress and grow, like delegation, etc., is key. But for me, I was like, you got to whatever you want to build, you still want to have that all in mentality and that
Uh-huh.
all in energy. And it's like, what do you want to be doing where do you want to be putting your time? And there's only so much bandwidth and I think entrepreneurs can resonate of trying to do too much.
Yeah.
And I've certainly done that. And I think you've got to really be conscious of like, where do you want to put your time? What's the bigger vision of what you want to build? And what's the strategic place to put your time and energy into?
It's such a yeah, that's such a valuable one. I think in terms of there's a couple of things there. Number one is like I can totally resonate with that. It's for me, I've always had shiny object syndrome. So it's like, okay, when I started my personal brand, I started doing it. I was actually making videos around UX design. I used to be a designer, so I started making like reviews and all this sort of stuff, and I started making content around UX design. And so it was pretty focused. I did reviews, I did tutorials, I did lives where I do like a mixture of the two things and then I started that's how I started telling my story because I realized people are interested in how I got into UX design and how I live in Spain and how I work remotely. And that's kind of how the storytelling part of my brand worked. But as I've went further and further down the personal brand route, obviously then boom, Giddies, my business Giddies Me Out of pops up. Now I'm doing events. So now I'm doing events and personal brand. That's already two things. I'm already like, okay, at least these work together in like this positive flywheel, but it is still splitting my time, you know? And so
Yeah.
it's like, if I focused 100% on Giddies, I'm sure that the events, I could take them to a new level. Or if I focused 100% on my brand, I'm sure that I could do way more. Like one of the things that I do, for example, is these trips you can see on this behind me. I kind of try and map out my
Yeah.
trip
Yeah. Yeah.
year goes by. I do these trips or these challenges. They're more like adventures, and I'm sure I could do way more of these adventures because this year I've pretty much done zero adventures, and we're already like it's Q1's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're deep into April at this point, and so and as time goes on now, for example, I'm doing community builders, and it's like God, and then on top of that, this is me just being as lean as possible. I'm
Yeah.
always getting people saying, "Tom, we should do this. Tom, we should do this. Tom, we should do this." And so it's such a skill being able to say, "No, I'm not going to do that." All right. But the problem is, it's like, how do you identify where to say yes, where to say no?
Yeah. No, it's yeah. I can really resonate with that. And I think actually one of the biggest things to do is to get your North Star.
Mm,
And I think having what's your like what's the vision that would get you? And I think for anyone listening to this, is like it's like being a kid again and like going back to when you're a kid and you're dreaming I'm going to travel the world or I'm going to be an astronaut. And actually, I look back when I was a kid and I actually wasn't really dreaming like that. And it wasn't until I got like older and like 18, 19, I started dreaming bigger. I started like listening to the right, like, listening to, different mentors and podcasts. And it just started making me think differently. And I think the key is like everybody's you go on social media, right? And ultimately everybody is selling you their way, their life, their version of the right way to do it. But I think the key is to be like, what do you want? Like, what is the life that you want? Like, what is your big vision that's going to really, really excite you? So for me, like my big vision, and even sharing this, I don't actually share this enough, and actually like sharing this now is quite a liberating thing to do because it's evidence. I'm sharing it now, and then the evidence of what I'm going to build. Like my big vision is to be running massive live events, like personal development events, where I get the freest people from around the world at these personal development events. And I put on an amazing conference and I literally transform thousands of people's lives. Like that is my North Star of where I can be like, right, my goal is for me to be extremely free, but to help other people be extremely free. And I know that doing that mission alone, I can't do that alone. So I want to have almost like the Avengers. I want the right people that I'm connecting with. Hence why I'm, running the Freedom Lifestyle podcast, because it's a way for me to network with these type of people
Yeah.
that have a mission, that they want to make an impact. They want to, they really want to build a legacy.
Mhm.
So it's like, that vision is like my North Star and really excites me. So then because of that, I then was like, a sales agency is essentially, yes, sales is part of my journey, but on stage, I don't actually want to be talking about sales teams. And that's not what I want to be talking about. So for me, I'm like, right, okay, it's not actually in alignment with what I want to be talking about on stage, what my bigger vision is. So then even though the decision was really hard and really uncomfortable, and it was a bit like a roller coaster, I'll be fully honest. I actually sent like a long, obviously me and you are both in Creator Club. I sent a long voice note to Louis about it, because I seen he shared a story on Instagram about how he mapped out a program for like a month, and then he ended up just sacking it off and
Yeah.
not doing it. So I sent him a voice note about it, and I think this is something that a lot of people can resonate with. If like, where do you put your time and where do you put your energy?
Yeah.
So I think the key is just to what's your big vision, and then once you know your big vision, you can just ask yourself the question: if I do this, is this going to help me? Is this going to take me towards my vision, like closer to the vision,
Yeah.
or is it actually moving me down a different road, down a different path? And I think this is where shiny object can come in, because by the way, I think this is very relatable for people listening to this, because especially on social media now with short form content and drop shipping, trading, sales, high ticket offers, um, e-commerce,
Crypto.
build your own brand. There's endless, right? And this is, I think, actually on the flip side, it's exciting, because I said to my partner, I went, the exciting thing in today's day and age, a lot of people have the goal of making 10K, 20K, whatever. You can actually make that now in all of these different every single opportunity I've just listed there.
Yeah.
You could earn that type of money that you probably want to earn in all of them opportunities.
Mhm.
So it's like, actually, rather than looking at which one is going to make me the most money, look at which one am I going to be the most excited about? Which one is something that's going to help me towards my bigger vision that I want to live? And even if that vision doesn't have to be like me running big conferences and events and, you know, making this massive impact, even if your vision is, I want to be able to spend X amount of time with my family. So it's like, okay, cool. So if you now know what the life that you want to live,
Mhm.
what would be the best type of business model or the best type of community for me to build, so that I'm able to be free, that I'm able to spend quality time with my children? So it's just like, what's the dream? I call it, what's your freedom lifestyle? Like,
Mhm.
how does your freedom lifestyle look? And part of that is like, what's the right vehicle and the right business model, or the right community, building communities that's going to align with your long-term vision of how you want your life to look.
Yeah.
And then once you know that, it's then a lot easier to then make decisions.
Yeah, I was just while you were talking then, I was just working through that exact framework with the decision that with the decision that I've been making recently.
Yeah.
That's not how I operate, by the way, but I like that as a model, as like an operating model to make decisions in your life as well. It makes complete sense. And so I think that works if if you've got a lot of clarity on what that goal is, then it works, right? So for me right now, I don't have loads of clarity on exactly what my ultimate goal is, but I know that I want more location freedom. So that's one of my absolute yeses. Right now, I've got the business in Spain. I'm quite locked to Spain, but thankfully, I'm lucky enough that I've built this personal brand as well, and I've built on some online sources of income. Right, so I'm not like I'm 100% locked to Spain. I have a little bit of I can move. So basically, the question that I'm asking myself at the moment is, what do I need to do? Well, no, sorry, a better question is a question I've been asking myself for the last year, and something that I felt like I've needed to do, but I haven't pulled the trigger and taken the plunge, to use all the metaphors,
Yeah.
is is I need an event planner. One thing for me that takes a lot of time is we do physical events, right? So with Giddies, we do a lot of physical events, rooftops with hundreds of people, speed dating with lots of logistical problems,
Yeah.
networking, all this sort of stuff, right? So there's lots of different events, and I have to I have to confirm with the venues. I have to find the venues in the first place, do negotiations. A lot of the time in Spain, they want to see you in person. All these things like that.
Mhm.
Some of these things take 2 hours of my day, and sometimes they're not worth it at all. But then obviously
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes they are, but still, regardless, it's taking a lot of my day. And it also, of course, requires that I'm in Spain. So you can see, I imagine you can see why having an event planner for me would be
Huge.
amazing. And so
Yeah.
now, exactly. So now I'm thinking with you, for example. Okay, so if I want to have this more location free life, and I've got somebody in mind that I'm going to hire for this event planning role. By the way, we're in talks right now about it.
Nice.
And I'm thinking, I know I want this more location free life. Is this the right move to hire this guy or to hire an event planner? It's like it becomes a no brainer. Then it's like yes,
Mhm.
because if I want to live location free, I know right now that I cannot do that with the way that I'm currently operating, and so that
Yeah.
makes the decision 100% clear that yes, I need to. And I mean, obviously, the question is this the right guy for it? I think he is, by the way. But like, that's a different question. But the question of do I hire someone to do an event planning role? The answer is yes. Like, get the fear
1,000,000%.
there and get it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
How
really interesting framework.
how powerful. And this kind of rewinds back to the start of the podcast of when I said I love podcasting because like, you know, even me just saying that there's that's then triggered something in yourself, and I'm sure the listeners that are also going to be listening, the all it takes sometimes is just that
Mm.
one question to get you out your own head. Because Tony Robbins says it: once you get in your head, you're dead. And
Only when
sometimes,
you were saying you want to do these transformative seminars or like huge events, it's Tony
yeah,
Robbins kind of does that sort of stuff, right?
yeah, he loves it, and I feel like what Tony. I love to go to some of his events actually. Um, But it's kind of do you know what? It's a bit of a combination actually, because Tony Robbins, a lot of his events are just him. Whereas Grant Cardone, as an example, who was one of my like first mentors I invested into, his were like he'd have these conferences with loads of different mentors. And I started going to some in England, in the UK, and I loved it. I loved the networking side of it, like the people that I was meeting, the education that I was learning. And I know that with my network of what I can build, that it just is for me, it's like it really is my North Star. But rewinding back to what I was mentioning, this is why I love a podcast because, like, you know, just having people on and saying that one thing, saying that one question is then led you on to getting like more clarity of, oh yeah, of course that decision makes sense because that suits the life that I want to live. And let me ask you a quick question actually, because this is actually something, me being vulnerable right now, something that's actually happened to me over this last week, and I'm actually speaking to my clients about it as well. Of
Mhm.
like, and it seems to be a common theme,
Mm.
and I've actually realized I actually think ChatGPT has been overwhelming me, and this seems to be a common theme of speaking to people. And what I think's happening is we're losing a lot of our own intuition and our own knowing. And I've been doing it myself. I've been going on to ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT is then taking me down a different rabbit hole, and then you're losing your own mind and your own thought and your inner knowing.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to share that then actually, because I think you know the answer. I know the answer. And it's like as soon as you then start going on like say ChatGPT and stuff, that's when you can lose the magic and you lose the answers. And this is the reason why I got qualified as a coach, because there's a difference. You've got a coach and you've got a mentor. Both are extremely valuable, and both of them have pros and cons. And that's why I quite like to do both. But one of the most powerful things about what I learned when it comes to coaching was just by asking the right questions. Rather than me telling you what to do,
Yeah.
it's just asking a question for you to then go deeper, to then realize the answer yourself.
Mhm.
And it's so much more empowering sometimes of you being the one to work out the solution and the answer than having someone else tell you what to do. And I think this is kind of goes back to the whole shiny object syndrome as well on social media, right? Of all these different opportunities. It's because everybody's telling you what you should do. And this is why I like to, whenever I take on any clients for my coaching, I need to make sure that whoever I work with are actually aligned, and they're actually aligned with working with me on this, rather than me saying that this is the route you have to go down. No, I need to make sure this is the route that you genuinely want to go down, whoever I work with.
Mhm.
And I think that's the key difference is like, are you just doing this thing because of what you're seeing on social media? Or are you doing this because actually, no, this really aligns with the life that I want to live?
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Just for well, I was about to say for the audience's sake, also for my sake. What's the difference between a coach and a mentor?
Great question. So, a mentor is someone, I've done this. This is like the blueprint. This is like the step by step, which, by the way, is extremely valuable. A coach is someone that I might not. When you're coaching, you don't actually need to give any advice.
Yeah.
I'm not here to give you a blueprint. I'm not here to give you step by steps. I'm not even here to give you advice. I am here to facilitate and help you work it out yourself by
Mhm.
asking the right questions, which is going to get you out your head.
Mm.
So that's the difference between a coach and a mentor.
Coach is almost like it sounds more like from the therapy side of things as well, right? So you're kind of like it's like business therapy or like uh,
Yeah,
or it's kind of like not even business, but I guess it's kind of like alignment, you could say, if you're into that sort of language. It's kind of like, am
yeah,
I on the right path of doing what I want to do, and working with a coach is going to help you. Whereas a mentor, as you said before, it's maybe more providing the frameworks because they've done something, and you want to just kind of copy paste, but add your own spin on it or whatever.
exactly that. And both are extremely valuable,
Mm,
and that's why I do both. And I,
mhm,
I think that's what gives me personally like a unique perspective, because
mhm.
a lot of people are either one or the other.
Yeah.
Whereas I like to do both, because I think there's pros and cons. Because sometimes as well, going back to the whole confidence thing,
Mm,
what we started back at the start of this podcast, like confidence at the end of the day, like a mentor, like giving the confidence, and yes, like a mentor could help you gain more confidence, but ultimately the best way to overcome and become the most confident version is by having a coach.
mhm,
Because a lot of the time, like what I shared about how I had a coach and I realized I had trauma in the womb. Like a mentor wouldn't have been able to tell me that, or wouldn't have been able to know that. It was me that did the deep, deep, deep work to realize what I actually went through when I was younger. And that's the reason why I've now got this trauma.
mm,
So that's where a coach comes really, really powerful, is because a coach can really help you with your deep stuff that a lot of people tend to avoid. But usually is the reason why people get capped at certain business points. A lot of the time, it's because of like limiting beliefs. It's because of the past trauma, and that's where coaching really comes powerful.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, I'm very passionate about both, because I've had both mentors and coaches, and they've both played different roles in like my journey.
mhm.
Uh, yeah, I'm very grateful for that. And a lot of people don't actually know what the difference is either. So it's been good to share.
Yeah. And so I realized we've been speaking kind of about what you do without actually fully explaining what you do. And this is the
Yeah,
Community Builders podcast, and we like to go into the kind of the business behind like
for
personal
sure.
brand, community, all that sort of stuff. But before we go into that, just tell me like how do you if you meet someone randomly that maybe isn't in this world, how do you explain to them what you do? What do you tell them?
Yeah, I love that. So let's say I meet someone, I meet someone randomly. I'll be like, I'll ask them the question first of all, like, do you have a personal brand?
Yeah.
You know, because for me, my I guess you can call it like my target market. are people that have a personal brand, that are creating already, that are entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
and then essentially help them make sure that they're in alignment. Obviously, going back to the word you shared, make sure they're in alignment with what they want to build. Because, I mean, look, I guess this is actually just jumping in quickly. This was another reason. It's a bit wild. There's another reason why I also walked away from the business, was because I was like, wow, that story is going to be so powerful on stage, because it just shows that you could be in a six-figure because this is another trap of people that are on these high-paying salary jobs.
Yeah.
They're in there. Why do you think so? Like Chris, as an example, he was earning good money. He was in London. He was in a corporate role,
Chris
but he
Gill.
wasn't
I think
happy.
if you haven't seen the Chris Gills episode, for anyone listening, he's on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, so you can go back and watch that.
There
Sorry.
we go. Right, there we go. We're bringing it in. So he was in corporate, and I know a lot of people can resonate of being in this like high paying salary job, and it ends up becoming a trap because they're not happy. So what I do is I take someone that's got a personal brand. I make sure that they're going to build the house with the right foundations, because I built a six-figure company. All that time and energy that I was actually building the wrong house. I was still doing coaching as well alongside it, but I wasn't able to go fully all in with the coaching, was because a lot of my time and energy was on the agency. And I have my coaching, and then I'm also obviously, I mentioned off camera that I just filmed all of season 2 of my podcast Freedom Lifestyle, which I was filming while I was in Mexico. So I had my coaching, I had the podcast, I had my agency, and me and my partner, we get opportunities to create content for different brands and stuff. So I had too many things going on.
Mhm.
Something had to drop. And the thing that had to drop for me was the agency. So I think, going back to my point with alignment, I've got that story there to share now, which is I believe is gonna be a really inspiring story for a lot of people that may be stuck in the wrong relationship, business, career, etc., for them to take that plunge and take the risk and leave. But if I was to meet someone, I'd be like, I'll help you turn your personal brand, and I'll help you monetize it so you can build a business that actually aligns with you, so you can live your freedom lifestyle, essentially. And the reason why you don't have to have a personal brand, but the reason why I'm working more with people with personal brands, hence why I partnered with Chris, was because personal branding isn't my specialty. So for me, like, a big part of monetizing and having your own high ticket offer, as an example, you're going to get a lot better results if you have a personal brand. And that's why I think personal branding is like one of the most important things to do if you want to have an online presence and have an online business that you can be anywhere around the world. And personal brand is like one of the most important things you can do. Hence the reason why you've got a massive advantage, because you've got an amazing personal brand. You've got so much credibility. And the reason why you've been able to run the events probably and do so well with the events in Spain is also because of your personal brand as well, right?
Oh, for sure,
So
yeah.
it all ties back to the fact that what you've grown has led you on to being able to do what you've been able to do. So hence the reason why, for me personally, I like to work with people with personal brands, because you're going to be able to monetize your audience a lot easier. But even monetizing your audience, that alone can sound a bit surface level. And that's why I like to bring it back to like the alignment. And it's like finding something that you would genuinely do for free,
Yeah.
because then it's like, I actually love doing this. I want to do this because it lights me up. And I realized, and this was another thing that happened, that I was living in Mexico. And you might have realized, when you live in Spain or you travel, I think you really start to look at life differently, because people that are living in London, as an example, they're in this like hustle mentality where they're just like, they're in fight or flight constantly. But when you go to places like Spain, Bali, Thailand, Mexico, Spain, there's a bit of a different energy. You've got, like, obviously you're in Madrid, right? So it's like, obviously I know it's more city vibe, but there's a different energy than what it is in London. And it does give you more time to actually think about what you want in life. And when I was in Mexico, I was coming off like meetings and like these type of tasks that I was doing for my agency. And I was almost drained by it. I wasn't as lit up. Whereas I do a podcast, Like right now, I'm like so energized, and I'd come off a podcast and I'd feel fired up. I'd come off a coaching client. I was coaching Chris whilst I was, running my agency, and I'd get off the coaching client and I was just completely lit up.
Mm,
And that was when I was like, right, it's so important to make sure that you're doing things that actually light you up. And obviously, in your scenario for you, like you loved running the events, but you're at the point now where although you love running the events, you also want more location freedom.
mhm.
Hence the reason why. And it sounds like the event managing side of things isn't the thing that lights you up the most, because you mentioned there's tasks that you have to do on a
Yeah,
day-to-day basis that clearly aren't lighting you up
yeah,
and is keeping you in Spain, and I know you want to be in South America and stuff like that.
yeah,
So it's looking at your life, looking at like the business that you're running, looking at all the tasks. What are the things that light you up? What are the things that don't? And then obviously you want to ideally delegate the things that don't light you up, and then you can just focus on the things that do.
yeah. When it comes to giddies, for me, it's one of those interesting things, I think, and like this is also me reflecting your vulnerableness on the calls. So I'm kind of giving you some vulnerableness back. I love giddies. I think it is as I say. I think community, kind of the catchphrase for this podcast at the moment, at least, is building community and personal brands is the best business model for the soul. And I really believe that's super
Yeah,
strong on the community side, because on the community side, you okay it isn't the best business in terms of like the community model. It isn't the best business in terms of like profit margins or anything like this, it's not, unless you're going massive on scale, then you're losing the kind of community element anyway. It's not,
right.
you're not going to get mega rich off it. But what's amazing is and why it's good for the soul is the network of people. I've met some of my best friends through Giddies. I'm moving house next week and I'm moving in with the guy that I met through Giddies, you know what I mean, who does social
Yeah,
media as well. So, and I've got a million little stories like this where I just think that Giddies has improved my life in every single way, like every single way. Um, like building an authority as well, and just becoming kind of a trusted voice within your own city is amazing. There's so many cool little benefits, you know what I mean? Like some days I'm like walking around, I'm pissed off about something, and somebody might come up to me, but oh, that's the guy from Giddies and me out of that, and it makes me think, okay, like it is quite nice that people appreciate my work, because
yeah,
online you get a lot of, there's always hate, and I was speaking about this
negativity.
with Chris as well, actually, in our podcast. There's always going to be hate and there's always negativity, and like you have to have thick skin. But of course, on some days it kind of gets you. But going back to what I was talking about, on the vulnerable side, I love Giddies. It's given me so much amazing things in my life. But of course, it's one of those things as well, and it's like a personal brand that as you grow, the personal brand grows with you. The community,
Yeah,
because it's its own business, and it exists independently from you, it doesn't kind of grow with you, because people kind of get an idea. Well, it can and it can't. People get an idea of what Giddies is. Okay, Giddies is the social thing. We do rooftop parties, we do speed dating. I'm now introducing more of a business element to it, and we're doing workshops and this sort of stuff. And
nice.
and it's this is amazing, by the way. And it's we've only ran one so far, but it was a great turnout. Really interesting people. And so in that sense, it can grow with you. But because it is this brand, like just because 30 people come to the workshop doesn't mean that the thousands of people that have heard about Giddies before now think, oh, Giddies is about business and networking. So it's one of those weird things for me. As I grow,
Mm,
I want my business to grow with me, and the personal brand to grow with me. And that's kind of why I'm at the point now where I'm thinking, okay, I need to set this up in a way that gives me more freedom, because I need more growth as well, because you get to the point where, not that I feel trapped in Spain by Giddies, and by my business. But I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I've been doing this now for 3 years. I'm ready for the next thing. I'm ready to
yeah,
level up this part of my life. Giddies is running. I'm ready to get that more on autopilot, and delegate that better. So then I can focus more over here on the next stage of whatever that may be, whether it's the one-to-one coaching, whether it's the cohort coaching with community builders and that sort of stuff.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, but it's interesting. It's very interesting. I think when it comes to like growing with your business, especially if so many people with a community feel ownership over your business. It's like uh,
yeah.
McDonald's brings out a new burger and people love it or hate it, but they don't feel like, no, McDonald's. They don't feel that personal the personal attack. Whereas if with Giddies, for example, if I change the direction of Giddies, people are going to be like, "No, I was here from the start. I've been buying tickets from the start. We don't like this
Yeah.
direction." Like it's
Yeah.
it's a blessing people feel ownership because it means it connects with people, but also it's like you have a lot you have a lot of responsibility as well of people who feel like they own your thing.
Yeah, yeah, I get you. I get you. It's interesting actually just touching on as well from an energy standpoint.
Mm,
I've seen a difference of what you when you were speaking then about the stories, the networking that's happened from it, the fact you're moving in with like you were like you like lit up
yeah,
talking about that compared to when you were talking about the 2 hours of like all the event side of things earlier. I seen a massive difference of like the energy of that. And
yeah,
that just shows that what you're best at, you're obviously amazing. You're amazing at networking and that's what lights you up and you love it. It's the same as me actually. So we're very similar on that part.
mm,
But then there's other tasks like what you mentioned earlier that doesn't light you up as much, and
uh-huh,
that's that just shows evidence of like where you want to be like you want to be delegating for sure.
mhm. No, super interesting. Yeah, it's about doing that kind of like reflection as well. I'm just a bit conscious of time. We haven't barely touched on any of your story, but
We've
yeah,
gone deep instead, which actually I really like, and we can always 1,000,000% do another
yeah,
podcast
yeah,
as
of
well.
course. It's,
In the future. But I think this one's been we've flown with it, right?
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like
Sure. No,
I liked the element of going a bit deep. You probably didn't expect it to go this way.
yeah, no, not at all. But this is good. This is a sign for me. It's really good because it means that I haven't had to follow my script, and we've kind of actually just both pursued our own curiosities. But
Yeah,
one thing I know about you because we've got a bit of time, so I kind of want to. There are some questions that I do want to ask you, and
please.
one of them is you. And maybe you can give some context on this as well. I know that you've invested a lot in yourself, like
Yeah.
even financially as well. Like you talked about having a mentor with Greg Cardone. I know you've had multiple mentors. You said that you've had coaches as well. And so, what was the single thing that you got the biggest return on investment on?
That's a great question. That's a great question. It's quite hard to pinpoint because there's been multiple pinpoints.
Mhm,
But I'll touch on three that's come to me.
mhm,
The first one was actually from Grant Cardone, and his was just the way and this is why this ROI may be one of the highest ones, because essentially when I made that investment with Grant, he started making me think differently. He's got the mindset of 10x, thinking 10x, thinking a lot bigger than everybody else, and that's what I started doing. I started thinking bigger than everyone. And this was the biggest problem that I had whenever I was in a business. If I was in a sales team, if I was in a company, like whenever I've done sales, the way I've always thought so much differently. So I'll give an example. When I was doing high ticket sales in the solar panel industry. It was the largest solar company in the UK, but I ended up thinking bigger than what everyone else was doing. And I ended up generating my own leads. I started running my own ads, invested into ads, generating my own traffic. I had my girlfriends ringing up the leads to book in appointments for me to close.
you
And
said
then
things
yeah, she was, yeah. And then I'd earn double commission. And I went from earning like 1 to 1.5K to like more like 2 to 3 grand per deal. And I can remember in an hour I made £2,950 commission in 1 hour. And I was like, ooh, I'm onto something here. And then I was going to build a remote team for the company. So that was point number one, was just the way I started thinking a lot differently. It's like if you want to get to building a six-figure business, you need to and you're not there yet. You need to start thinking like you're a six-figure business owner now. If you want to build a seven-figure business, you want to start thinking like you're a seven-figure business. But you could go all the way up to start thinking like, what would a billionaire do?
uh,
How would they, what decision would they make here? Let's say you're invested into a mentor. Would a billion, like, how would a bit, that's why, I made an investment of 20K before into a mentor, and I'll come on to that in a minute. And even though I didn't have 20 grand, because I was thinking like a billionaire, that was how my mindset was. 20 grand to a billionaire is nothing, but 20 grand to me was a lot.
Yeah.
So I started thinking like that, and it really helped me like be able to just make more ruthless decisions, which then got me to the next level because I was thinking on a different level than what I'm actually at. And in order to get to the next level, you need to be at the next level mentally before you're going to get there physically. So that was point number one, was the way I was thinking. And even from a psychological standpoint of investing into mentors, I've invested over 50K into mentors. A lot of people would be like, that's crazy. You could get a house deposit down for that. But I was like, but the best investment you can make is in your knowledge, because you're then going to be able to earn more money. So the ROI of the way I'm thinking has been massive. That was point number one. Point number two, I invested in, obviously sales has been my main background. So I invested into sales mentorship down in Birmingham. It was really good. It was a year that I did it. That was a 9K investment. And actually the mentor said to me, he was like, when I said no to him, and he said to me, he said, the other side of fear, amazing things happen. And he said that to me, and that statement has just stuck with me now, because it's true. The other side of fear, amazing things happen. The other side of that investment, the other side of asking that girl out on a date,
Yeah.
the other side of starting that business, that's where the amazing things happen. So that really stuck with me. But that ROI of that mentorship was really good because I just leveled up my sales psychology, and I really started to understand like language. So for instance, just to give some sales value, a lot of people speak about the price. My price of my program is this, but a better language to use is the word investment, because like the investment price is like you're paying the price. People are scared to share the price, whereas I'm confident to share the investment because I back it, because I'm like, an investment is an ROI. You
Mm.
put X in, like, and you put the work in, I know you're going to get X out. So you're actually making money, right? Whereas price, you're like, can be like, you're losing money. So I really started to learn about like language in sales, psychology of sales. It's always really valuable to share like your highest investments with people, whereas a lot of people like to share their lowest stuff first and then upsell. Whereas I like to just be so upfront with people. I'm like, this is what I offer.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing ROI. And then the last one was when this led on from my podcast, Freedom Lifestyle. I interviewed a CEO of the Coaching Masters that built a $25 million company. They had an online platform. They were traveling around the whole world. I interviewed him, and I was on the podcast, sat there like, that's what I want. I want to build that. So we went for a drink afterwards, and it was $20,000 to work with him one-to-one for 6 months. And me and my business partner at the time, who ran a podcast together, we were like, well, we haven't got the money, but we're just going to do it. I ended up pitching him. So I pitched him to have equity in my company. So I was like logistically trying to work out ways of doing it, because I didn't have the money, and he
Yeah.
said no. But he went, I love that you're thinking like that, because that's what my business partner Lewis would have done. And I ended up investing into me, and he helped me go from having a low ticket membership into a high ticket offer. And that's changed everything for me, because high ticket sales and high ticket business it just changes the game.
Oh,
And I do think,
I just want to just jump in there because this was going to be my next
please,
question, but I want to give more context before
yeah.
we go into this. So, because when you said you had the low ticket offer, I just want you to
Mm.
expand on that a little bit, and then when you went into high ticket, because you had a WhatsApp group, right? And I don't know what the niche was. It was something to do with sales, or was it entrepreneurship in general? And you had
So it
two.
was, yeah. So it was essentially how I started in the online world. I guess it kind of rewinds back on the journey as well. So when I was in high ticket sales doing the solar panel sales,
Okay.
the reason why I wanted to go online with it was, yes, I was making good money. There was months where I was making 10K in a month commission. So, I was very happy, but I was working 6 days a week, and I was stuck on the motorway driving around the country, and I had the taste of freedom. I wanted to be free.
Hmm.
So then when I had the realization, because of the way I was thinking, I had the realization that I could do this. I was like, imagine, rather than spending 6 hours driving on the motorway, them 6 hours I could be living life. them 6 hours I could be on a virtual call instead of an in-person call, because I was going around to people's homes around England. I had the realization to go online, and then it started working. I closed a 25K deal, made £2,950 commission. I was like, oh, I'm onto something bigger. I then actually started recruiting. So my podcast partner, Jacob, after that, we started the podcast when we left the solar company. I actually recruited him, part of my sales team.
Uh-huh.
He then closed a deal virtually, but the company didn't like what we were doing it virtually for some reason. I think they felt threatened by what we were building. I don't know why.
You're
Because I
building
was
a
going to,
company though, as in like, so I don't understand this part. So you said that you were doing it virtually. So how were you going? You were kind of like in renegade mode, building your own thing, but outside their rules, or I don't understand that part.
yeah. So I was essentially self-employed. So they'd give me the appointments. I'd go to their home, but
Okay,
I started generating my own appointments because they gave us double commission by generating our own appointments and getting referrals.
I see.
So I went, I'm going to go all in of getting my own leads and my own opportunities myself. And then it meant I could do it virtually, so I could do it on Zoom, because the appointments that we got from the company, I'd need to go to their home,
Okay.
and because I needed to go to their home, I couldn't leave England, and
Hmm.
I wanted to be able to be in Europe and be in different parts of England, so that's why I went virtually. But what happened was, it was actually the day that when I hired Jacob, he closed an appointment virtually, and that night, the sales manager put in the group chats that from next week, all double commissions is going to be gone. So then we didn't have I didn't have the margin to be able to invest into the ads.
Yeah.
So the operation basically got shut down, and that's when I left, and I started my podcast called Freedom Lifestyle back in 2022. And because I didn't have the self-belief and the confidence to charge high ticket, I started out charging £20 a month for a low ticket membership.
Hmm.
And I completely burnt myself out. And not only did I completely burn myself out, I wasn't getting very good results with people because people wasn't taking it as seriously. And it was until I then invested into Liam, and he was like, if you want to build, a business that's going to make a massive impact, and you can make a lot of profit from it, you want to go high ticket because you get people that are more serious. um, so that was when I transitioned into high ticket, and it's been life changing, and I do really believe that low ticket is extremely valuable as well. Like having like a low ticket community, like, is amazing, because it's like, it's not as hands on. Like higher ticket, there is more energy that you got to put into it.
Hmm.
However, higher ticket gives you the leverage to be able to invest more into getting editors, getting like, so then you can actually build it out more. So for me, like, they've been my three biggest pivotal moments that I've had. So it was quite hard to pinpoint the biggest shift that I've had, because every mentor that you invest into, even some mentors that I've invested into that wasn't amazing, like, you still learn a load of like what not to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes learning what not to do is as valuable as learning what to do.
Yeah. Understood, bro, dude. This has been amazing. It's been amazing. I want to ask you one more question to bring it all full circle. Um, and it's more of a light-hearted question. So it related to Ibiza Weekender. So what was like? Was there a certain level of like? Did you have a bit of buzz or a bit of fame when that aired, or what happened with that?
Yeah, yeah. I actually did. It was quite wild. I ended up with a girl on the show as well. So that was like on TV. So that was a bit wild. Number one. Number one. And number two
I wonder if I
was that
saw it. I'm thinking about it. Maybe I even saw it and just didn't know.
maybe it was season three. It
Oh
was
no!
season three.
I don't know.
I was the finale episode.
No way.
um, and but when I went that summer, I obviously did my first season in MAGA.
Mm,
And because I was, selling events, the amount of people that were like, I know you. I swear I saw you on TV, because I was the finale episode. So I was the last episode. And then a lot of people that are like 18, 19, 20, 21 that go to places like MAGA are the
yeah.
type of the audience that watch IB for Weekender.
Yeah.
So yes, a lot of people in that year, especially the first season, knew who I was and recognized me.
Very
And
funny.
then as I did 6 seasons in the end out there, um, and it got to a point where nobody recognized me at all.
Yeah, I guess it fades as well. That's so funny.
It really does fade. Going on TV, obviously Love Island, you're on it for longer. Like my episode was like one episode. There's a difference of like, yeah, going on a one episode show compared to going on a TV show when you're on it for like a, like I'm a Celebrity or Love Island and stuff. But even like Love Island, like shows like that, even that, it has a time
Yeah.
bandwidth,
Hmm.
and these things fade. And I think it's like that. I think what is it you want to be? What is it you really want to be known for? And like for me, like being known for just getting pissed on TV wasn't. I'm kind of glad that like
Yeah,
people don't recognize me anymore, but I like to share it because it's quite a funny, unique
yeah,
um
it's like
experience.
Chris Williamson was on Love Island. Do you know what I mean? So, and he's built something that's
Yeah,
way bigger than Love Island. So I think that, yeah, I mean, you can go. It's all a part of that. I'm
that's
big
true.
into, yeah, I'm big into kind of reinvention and kind of
Yeah,
yourself in general. And I think that anyone's got the power to do it. And just because you're something now doesn't mean that you can't be something else this time next year. You know what I mean? It's all about just having the mindset shift and putting in the actions and just becoming that person. You know?
yeah, very, very. I like that. Yeah, reinvent. I reinvent all the time,
Yeah.
and I actually think a lot of people. Yeah, that's probably actually a good takeaway from this episode. Is like, are you feeling like the listener? Are they feeling like potentially stagnant?
Hmm.
You know, and they're ready for a reinvention. They're ready for the upgrade. They're ready for the next level. And I like to treat my life and business like a video game.
Mm.
And, that's why people get so addicted to Call of Duty and stuff. I used to be addicted to Call of Duty, FIFA,
Yeah.
Foot Champs, bloody that caused me chaos, FIFA Foot Champs. And it's because it was like a game, right? You get addicted to leveling up on Call of Duty and, ranking up and stuff like that. So it's like, try and look at your life and business like that as a game, a video game. And it's like,
Mhm.
how can you level up in business? How can you level up in confidence? How can you level up in fitness? How can you level up in health?
Mhm.
And treating yourself like you're the game
Mhm.
rather than the external game that you're playing. Go internal. I've loved this. I've loved this
Yeah.
conversation.
It's been
It's been.
awesome.
I
It's
appreciate you having me on.
no problems at all. It's been amazing. Right, do you wanna plug anything before I do the outro?
Yeah, for sure. I
Talk
mean,
and you.
yeah, like connect with me. I like to connect with everybody on Instagram. I think Instagram is the platform that's amazing to connect because I think you really get to see what people's lives are like and you really get to see like people's personalities. So I'd love to get connected with you on Instagram. Maybe put my Instagram in the description, but it's Callum Luke W. So it's pretty easy.
Yeah,
What's that? Sorry.
we'll put you in below for sure. We'll tag you below.
Amazing. And then yeah, also obviously I'm going to be launching season 2 of Freedom Lifestyle Podcast as well. And I think podcasting, like I think what you're doing, like obviously this is what you're a few episodes in, like
Mhm.
it's addicting podcasting. And I think people love to listen to podcasts as well, like whilst they're driving. I think some of the
Yeah.
best times to listen is when you're driving.
Mhm.
If you're driving to work or you're driving to the gym or you're on a walk, it
Yeah.
just really gets you thinking, and I think it gives you that time to go to start asking yourself the questions, like the deeper questions of like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I think a podcast can really trigger them thoughts into people. And that's why I always say yes to going on podcasts. Like I love doing it. So yeah, grateful for you providing the platform.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Thanks very much, Callum. So I did the outro now. So this is the exact type of stories that I love to listen to. It's people that we talked about reinvention. We talked about your whole story in terms of taking those leaps and investing in yourself and building something that really truly aligns with you. So if you've heard something today, or if your curiosity has been sparked today, and you would like to either build a community or build your own brand or build something that you align with, find all the links below. You can join the Community Builders podcast, and I work with people on a one-to-one basis too. So, Callum, thank you very much.
Let's go. Thank you. I love it.